Most people cannot handle freedom. They are always trying to bind themselves, but only talking, mouthing freedom all the time, because freedom needs courage. Freedom needs a certain madness. They can capture me, they can torture me, they can do so many things, but they cannot invade me.
Despite being surrounded by so many people, we still lack that feeling of belonging to somebody, being accepted by somebody, being loved by somebody. How should we deal with that discontent and loneliness?
On one level, many questions are aimed towards, how can I be free from this and that? Another level, you are asking, how can I bind myself to something or somebody? You must decide, what is the highest value in your life, freedom or bondage? Please, I would like to hear that word, freedom. But if you are free, you feel lost. If you go into the mountains and you're totally free, that is, nobody around, nothing around, you're just in the empty space of the mountains, you don't feel free, you think you're lost. So to handle freedom, it needs a certain clarity and strength. Most people cannot handle freedom. They are always trying to bind themselves, but only talking, mouthing freedom all the time. If you really set them free, they will suffer immensely. So this is an evolutionary issue. In the sense, human beings are right now like this. A caged bird, if you keep a bird caged for a long period of time and then one day you took off the door of the cage, still the bird won't fly. From inside it'll protest that it's not free, but it'll not fly. Human condition is just that. For all other creatures, nature has drawn two lines within which they have to live and die, and that's what they do. But only for human beings, there's only bottom line, there's no top line, and that's what they're suffering. If their life was also fixed like every other creature's life, they wouldn't be stressed, they wouldn't be anxious, they wouldn't be struggling how to handle their own intelligence. And that is what you're seeking unknowingly. You may seek it in the form of relationships, you may seek it in the form of profession, you may seek it in the form of nationality, ethnicity, community, God, heaven, hell. All you're trying to do is draw an artificial line which does not exist, because freedom needs courage. Freedom needs a certain madness. To be free, it takes a lot of strength. That if you… First of all, what needs to happen if you want to be free is, do you understand that all human experience has a chemical basis to it? What you call as joy is one kind of chemistry, misery is another kind of chemistry, stress is one kind of chemistry, anxiety another kind of chemistry, agony one kind of chemistry, ecstasy another kind of chemistry. At least ecstasy, you know it's another kind of chemistry, I hear. So, your experience of life has a chemical basis to it. This is the most superficial way of looking at it. There are other dimensions to it, but for your understanding. Or in other words, what you call as myself right now, you're a chemical soup. The question is only, are you a great soup or a lousy soup? Right now, if you have a chemistry of blissfulness, if you close your eyes, it's fantastic, if you open your eyes, it's fantastic, if somebody is here, it's fantastic, nobody is here, it's very fantastic. Yes or no? But you have a lousy chemistry. If you look at them, if they smile at you, it's nice, not fantastic. If they look at you like this, suddenly it's a problem. If these people are happening just the way you want, your chemistry is reasonably balanced. If they do something that you don't like, boom, it goes somewhere else. So essentially, you have not looked at this mechanism, what is the basis of this, how it functions, how I can make it function at its highest level. Right now, let's say you really blissed out like me. Do you care who is around, who is not around? If they're around, it's fantastic. They're gone, fantastic. Because Your experience of life is no more determined by what you have and what you don't have, whether it's people or things or food or this or that. It is not determined by that. Once your way of being is not determined by anything outside of you, then there is no such thing as loneliness. But you will enjoy your aloneness because whether you like it or you don't like it, within this body you're always alone, isn't it? Whether you do interaction or intercourse or whatever, still you're alone in this body, yes or no? If you don't learn how to handle this aloneness, you have not learned anything about life. This is the most beautiful thing. The most beautiful thing about life is, nobody can get here, it's just my space. Yes or no? Isn't this the most beautiful thing? Nobody can invade me. They can capture me, they can torture me, they can do so many things, but they cannot invade me because I have a space which is just my own. Isn't this the most wonderful aspect of your life? Don't suffer that. That is the most beautiful thing.
Have you ever felt utterly alone in a room full of people? Have you ever wondered why solitude sometimes feels like a burden, while at other times it feels like a blessing? Why does the silence of our own company either scream with loneliness or sing with peaceful aloneness? In this vast universe, in the middle of the stars and the silence of existence, the concepts of loneliness and aloneness have intrigued and puzzled many a soul. And yet, the difference between them is profound, and understanding them is like understanding the dualities of life and existence itself. Loneliness is the pain of being isolated from others, even when surrounded by many. It is as if a silent barrier stands between you and the world. It is like a veil that blurs the connections, dimming the light of togetherness. It is a cry of the heart, it is a yearning for connection, it is a desperate wish to be seen, heard, and understood. You could be in a bustling market, at a lively party, or even among loved ones, and still feel that gnawing sense of isolation as though you're watching the world from behind a glass wall. This feeling of being lost in a crowd isn't just a fleeting emotion. It's a profound existential state that often makes one question one's worth and place in the cosmos. It is born out of our attachments, our desires to be accepted, and our fears of rejection. It is fueled by expectations, both our own and those that the world places upon us. There exists a deep-seated belief within many that without a partner, without a group, or without validation, we are somehow incomplete, less than whole. You might have experienced it in the middle of laughter, music, and chatter. You find yourself drowning in the silence of your own thoughts, feeling utterly alone. That is loneliness. And it's not just a passing emotion, it's a profound mindset. It is a deep-seated psychological state. This sentiment doesn't arise in a vacuum. It emerges from our conditioning, from countless narratives and stories told and retold, from society constantly impressing upon us that we need someone or something to be complete. The magazines, the movies, the tales we grow up with all often weave this narrative that our completion, our happily ever after, lies in finding another. But what if the key to our completeness lies not outside but within? Now, let's journey to the other end of the spectrum, a place where many fear to tread, but where lies a treasure waiting to be discovered. Aloneness is not loneliness. While loneliness is a shadow that often follows us, aloneness is the light that has always been within us, waiting to be recognized. Aloneness is the pure, unadulterated joy of being oneself. It is like dancing in the rain with no one watching, singing at the top of your voice with no one to judge, and feeling the wind caress your face with no barriers in between. It is the realization that you, in your deepest essence, are a universe unto yourself. You are not a half waiting for another half to complete you. You are whole, resplendent in your completeness. In this state, there is no craving for external validation or for relationships to give meaning to your existence. Because in aloneness, you're not seeking, you are experiencing. There is a profound sense of peace, like the stillness of a serene lake. There is a deep reservoir of bliss, like the first rays of the sun touching the morning dew. And there is an endless fountain of love gushing forth not from dependency but from a space of abundance. This aloneness, my dear seekers, is not about isolation but about understanding one's true nature. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things while at the same time celebrating one's unique individuality. Being alone in this context is like being a drop of water that is fully aware of its own purity, its own journey, and its own potential. Yet at the same time, it knows that without a doubt, it is also part of the vast, boundless ocean. The drop does not lose its identity in the ocean, nor does the ocean overshadow the drop. They coexist, understanding both their individuality and unity. And in this understanding lies the beauty of aloneness. Loneliness comes from the ego. It comes from a place of thinking, I am separate, I am different, and I need someone else to complete me. This feeling is a trap. It is a byproduct of being identified too closely with this body-mind complex. On the other hand, aloneness arises from consciousness. When you shed the layers of society, ego, and mind and dive deep into your divine conscious nature, you find this beautiful state. You realize that in your essence, you're not separate from the trees, from the stars, and from other beings. You are all interconnected. The journey from loneliness to aloneness is a spiritual one. It begins with self-awareness. Watch your feelings of loneliness without judgment. Understand that they stem from societal conditioning and a misguided belief of incompleteness. Meditation can be a valuable tool on this journey. As you meditate, you begin to peel off layers of illusion. You start to disconnect from the ego-driven world and begin to connect with your divine conscious nature. Many enlightened beings, from mystics to monks, have cherished periods of solitude, not because they wanted to escape from the world, but because they wanted to dive deep into their inner world. They found that in silence and solitude, the universe whispered its secrets. Embracing aloneness does not mean shunning society or relationships. It simply means that you don't depend on them for your happiness. It simply means that you don't depend on them for your sense of self-worth. You can be in a crowd and still be alone in your stillness and peace. You can be in a relationship and not lose your essence. Remember, dear seekers, loneliness is a call from the ego, while aloneness is the song of the soul. When you understand this, you no longer fear being by yourself. Instead, you cherish those moments because you know that in those depths of solitude, you are closer to existence. You are closer to your true self. You are closer to your divine conscious nature. So embark on this beautiful journey from loneliness to aloneness, from darkness to light, and from ignorance to enlightenment. The universe awaits you with open arms.